Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Town of Los Gatos Joint Town Council Parking Authority and Redevelopment Agency meeting of November 21st, 2011. First, I'd ask if you would, if you turn off your cell phones or put them on mute so that they do not disturb the meeting, that would be great. And then I'd like to ask Madam Clerk to call roll.
Councilmember Stephen Leonardis.
Here.
Councilmember Barbara Spector. Here. Councilmember Diane McNutt. Here. Vice Mayor Steve Rice.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Joe Przynski.
Here. As is our tradition, we ask leaders in our youth community to come to our meetings to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight is no exception. And because of the fact that this is our transition night, we have the opportunity to invite members of our Youth Commission to join us for the pledge. And what I'd like to do is this, ladies and gentlemen, you're all down here in the front row. If you would come to, after I introduce you, stand up so that your audience can see who you are. And then once we've introduced everyone, then come to the podium and join me behind the podium, if you will. And I'm going to read the names of all of the youth commissioners, and those who are present stand. Okay. Benjamin Baranovsky, Benjamin's chair and a junior. Adam Gramling, Adam is a senior. Laura LaBombarda, Laura is a junior. Zal Mayoidian, a junior. Nikhail Patel, a senior. And have I missed any? Rod Farhada. Rod is the vice chair, and Rod came in just a little late. Okay? So, lady and gentlemen, if you would, stand by one, let me get down with you, and then we'll do the pledge. All right, we have late arrivals. They will be going to the dean's office as soon as we finish. Killian Jackson is a senior, and Hirsch Goswami is a senior. Now is that everybody? Anyone out there that you see? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our Youth Commission. We are so proud to have these young individuals in our community representing the youth. And they have done an outstanding job. They continue to do an outstanding job. And we'll hear a little bit more about their game plan a little later on in tonight's program. But I would ask that our chair, Benjamin, come to the mic and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and all the members of the commission join Ben as he does that. Benjamin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's thank our leaders. As I said, we're extremely proud of our Youth Commission. They have represented this contingent of our town so well, and I think it goes without saying that that they have contributed mightily to the well-being of our community. So thank you all for being here tonight. And the next presentation I would like to make is to our own Steve Conway, Finance Director. And would he please come forward Let's hear it for Steve. Steve didn't expect this, but we are again celebrating his achievement with a certificate of excellence in financial reporting for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2010. The town has received more than a decade of this award during the entire time that Steve has been with us. It's the highest form of recognition that an area of government accounting can achieve, and it's judged by an impartial group who determined that this is an expression of the spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate our financial situation. Now that's the first award that Steve's going to get. I'm going to also introduce his second award. On Thursday of this last week, the Silicon Valley Business Journal had the CFO Awards for the Valley. And Steve Conway received the Judge's Choice Award at this annual dinner sponsored by the Journal. This was judged by former CFOs and the Dean of the Levy School of Business at Santa Clara. Steve won in the public sector category for his wise and prudent fiscal stewardship of town finances. And this is for all CFOs in the Valley. Let's congratulate Steve for his efforts.
Just real briefly, thank you, Mayor and members of council. I really appreciate the nomination. I would like to thank our town manager's office, especially our town manager, and all the staff for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it. It was really a big surprise for me, and I was, I could think of a million other smarter people with finance than myself, but I'm very happy to receive the award in spite of all that, because I love this town. I love working for this town. I invite you all to shop and spend your taxes here in town, because every dollar you spend in town makes my job easier from a revenue standpoint. But I just glad to be here. I didn't want to upstage the mayor tonight on a big night for everyone else, but thank you very much.
Now we have something just a little different. As we all know, one of our own passed away a couple weeks ago. Steve Glickman was a council member for 8 years and mayor. And in the role of council and mayor, he contributed mightily to the well-being of our community. Tonight we'll be adjourning our meeting in his memory. But I want to say a few things to you about Steve. As we said, Steve was elected to council for 8 years, serving from 2000 to 2008. And in 2004, he was our mayor. But he wasn't only a member of council. He spent a good deal of his life in public service. That included 10 years on the Los Gatos Union School District Board, 4 years on the Juvenile Justice Commission, 14 years on the County Committee on School District Organization, and was a member of the Board of Directors of A Place for Teens to his death. Steve was an advocate for youth, as we all know, and he was instrumental in establishing the Youth Commission. He and his wife Judy also volunteered every Friday and Saturday night with the Safe Rides program. In addition to that, for 17 years, Steve volunteered at Fisher Middle School teaching computer science classes. In addition to his public and community service, Steve had a long career in physics and technology. We would like to express our condolences to Steve's wife, Judy, and to his two sons, Jason and Trevor, for this great loss. We also offer our appreciation to Steve for the many contributions to the Los Gatos community and to its youth that he made through his life. And we will adjourn our meeting in his honor and memory tonight. Thank you. Our agenda now calls for closed session report, and there was no closed session tonight. So at this point, I'd like to request all of you who wish to speak at tonight's meeting, if you would fill out the buff cards and bring them to our clerk on my left. I want to kind of outline something that's a little different tonight. Since the last agenda item is the election of a new mayor and vice mayor, and it is the appropriate opportunity for individuals in our community to speak in response, I'd ask that if you choose to speak either at the selection of mayor or selection of vice mayor, that you indicate that on the card if you submit it, and we will take that up when we get to that part of the program. Okay. All right. Council matters. Council and manager matters. Any council matters? Seeing none. Manager.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just a few items of interest. First, following on our finance director, Steve Conway's annual recognition as well as his special recognition, I just wanted to highlight a few other staff who are in leadership roles for the region and the state. Jessica Von Bork, our economic vitality manager, is the chair of the countywide economic development coordinating group for joint venture Silicon Valley. Todd Capurso, our director of Parks and Public Works, serves as the chair of the VTA Technical Advisory Committee, providing technical and staff advice on transportation and transit issues. Our police chief, Scott Seaman, is the current vice chair of the California Police Chiefs Association and is expected to step up as chair later in 2012. And I've just been elected vice chair of the City Managers Association for the state of California. All of these opportunities provide, all of these engagements provide opportunities to learn and provide leadership of direct service to Los Gatos through regional efforts, as well as learning best practices statewide. And as Steve recognition shows, it brings honor to the town and helps us continue providing the service that the council and community expects. Beyond those recognitions, I did want to announce that your next regularly scheduled meeting will occur after the annual tree lighting on Friday, December 2nd, and the holiday parade on Saturday, December 3rd. You do have a special session with boards and commissions on Monday the 28th, a week from now, but your next regularly meeting will be after those annual special events, and we didn't want to let them go unnoticed. Also, we are coming near the end of accepting applications for selected boards and commissions, which are due December 1st. And those, we've moved the date back to the 8th? Okay, we've moved the date back to the 8th. I knew we were considering it. And we will be interviewing those candidates with the council. The council will be interviewing them at your last meeting of the year. And applications and the duties of those commissions can be found on the town's website. That concludes staff report, and I'll turn it over to the mayor for a very special Did You Know?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manager. As I promised at our pledge, we are going to invite Benjamin Baranowski, the chair of our Youth Commission, to the microphone. And Ben will present to us tonight under Did You Know, the Youth Commission work plan. Ben, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben Baranowski, and I am the chair of the Los Gatos Youth Commission. I'm here to talk about what Youth Commission is and what our key goals are for the next year. The Los Gatos Youth Commission is in its 7th year. The commission is comprised of 20 students. We have 15 commissioners and 5 alternates. Youth Commission is a way for youth in the community to voice their opinions. We have created a work plan that aligns our activities with the 6 core values of the Council. Those core values are community character, good governance, fiscal stability, quality public infrastructure, civic enrichment, and public safety. Without mentioning all of our activities, an example of work we're doing includes reviewing the youth portion of the 2020 General Plan, identifying businesses the youth would like to see in the North 40, exploring ways to reduce parking and traffic issues around Los Gatos schools, assisting the new library in its service towards youth, reducing teen tobacco and drug use, increasing the prominence of our youth-friendly business program, and launching a Facebook page. I would like to invite anyone interested in youth issues to attend our meetings. They are held in this room the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. I would also like to thank the Council for their ongoing support of the youth in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. And I'd like us to appreciate Ben's presence and his outline. Very good. All right, the next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. These are actions that can be acted on in a single motion. I'd ask if there's any member of council wishing to pull an item from consent. Seeing none, any member of our public wishing to pull an item. Item number 2, okay? So item number 2 will be heard immediately after we approve consent. All right, any other items from the public wishing to be pulled? Seeing none, then if I ask the council for a motion to approve the consent agenda except for item number 2. Ms. Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve the consent calendar exclusive of number 2.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. That brings us then to verbal communication. Yeah, I think we can do 2 now. All right, we'll pull 2 up. All right. It was Mr. Arze who requested item number 2. We'll hear that at this point in time before verbal communication. Mr. Arze.
Larry Arze, Los Gatos, California. I'm here to address what seems to be another new practice. We seem to do things in series. The second building on Los Gatos Boulevard has now been turned into a medical office building. We all know what the plans for the boulevard call for, and these are not what the plans call for, but yet we seem to manage to squeeze it in. But first of all, I'd like to ask if the original retail professional building is what is to be built, because if there's going to develop a new set of plans, then you don't need to suffer under me. So I presume it's the new building. If it is, then I would hope you send this project back to planning for review, as this project was approved by planning for a different purpose, and the placement of the buildings are not appropriate for solely professional use. The Boulevard plan was comprised to promote retail on this site. Planning sent the project back to the drawing board previously, and had this been a professional use application, I doubt the plans would look the same. Now they just have a set of use plans that they're turning into a different use building. The Boulevard plan asked for buildings to be placed forward and parking in the rear, as we recently approved at the Swanson Ford site. You did it right there. There is no reason to see a sea of cars parked in the parking lot during the day. It is the antithesis of what the Boulevard plan is about, and a compromise was made for the ground floor being retail. The intensification use of a medical office building would surely have required more traffic and parking scrutiny. I have no problem with the town acquiescing to this historical downturn in allowing medical use there, but the project was not presented for that use, and I respectfully request you return this application to planning for a complete review, if not demand a new building proposal. The neighborhoods around this project have made it clear to you that they want a people-oriented project. It is on the record, a place they can walk to, buy taxable goods from, a place to meet and socialize, the place that benefits the neighborhood. By taking this away from them, you should at least make sure it does not look like an old-school Stevens Creek project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arce. No, ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you not applaud. The words speak for themselves, and that's how we have approached this, and it's worked very well. Thank you. Next item is to get a motion to approve or not. And Madam Inspector.
I had a question first. Did we have input from staff?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this project was originally approved by council 2.5–3 years ago. The recommendation that came from the Planning Commission was for an all-office building. It was at council direction during council review and approval of the project that an 8,500 square foot retail component was added on the boulevard. What came before you at your last meeting was a request that the Planning Commission forwarded on to council for your consideration, and as they stated in the minutes, they acknowledged it was a policy issue for the council, since the council was the body that had added the retail, not the Planning Commission. And what the request was that came forward was that if there is a single tenant for the entire building, that they be allowed to waive the retail component. However, if there are multiple tenants in the building, there would still be the retail component. And what is before you tonight is the ordinance that reflects the council's unanimous direction at your last meeting. And the traffic study was based on medical office originally, and so that has been considered.
Thank you. Any further clarification from council? Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval of item number 2.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. That brings us now to verbal communication. This is an opportunity for any member of our community to speak to an item not on tonight's agenda. And you would have 3 minutes for that. And we have one card for verbal communication. Jack Van Natta. Mr. Van Natta.
I'm Jack Van Natta from Los Gatos Community Alliance here in Los Gatos, and I am here to talk about mitigating an error that I just made in the letters to the editor at the Los Gatos Weekly Times. They'll be coming out tomorrow. Part of our charter to ourselves is that we're trying to understand the full impact of all the projects that are happening right now. So we're looking at traffic and we're looking at the impact on the schools. And in the letter to the editor, I stated that the impact of the cars was going to be, I think, 33,371 new car trips based on the developments that we see going on from roughly 2010 to, whenever North 40 completes and Albright Way. The only problem with that was in the letter to the editor, I stated that this number was based on Albright, which was 250,000 offices and 168 senior residences. Actually, the number was based on the 550,000 square feet of office, which was scenario 1. So it's my fault. It's an error that was made, and I sent a letter of correction to the Los Gatos Weekly, but it was late, so I don't know that it'll be in there tomorrow. But I don't want people's hair to go on end, or on fire for that matter, when they see 33,371 based on 250,000 square feet. And it is all the projects. It's not just Albright. So that was all it was. And good luck, Mrs. Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Van Natta. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak under verbal communication? Seeing none, then we're going to move to public hearings. And that takes us to item number 6. This is to adopt a resolution authorizing the continued use of the supplemental law enforcement services funds to provide for 2 full-time police officers assigned as motorcycle traffic officers. And Chief Scott Seaman is going to make the staff report. Is the mic on?
Mr. Mayor, I'll allow the report to stand on its own and be prepared for
All
questions
right,
if there are.
thank you very much. Council, questions for the chief in this important matter? You present very well, Chief. Thank you so much. Okay. Can I turn to the council for, if anyone would like to speak to this issue from our public, do not hesitate. You could actually turn in your card after you spoke if you wish. All right, we're all in favor of motorcycle traffic officers, and therefore there's no need to continue the public hearing. We will therefore close the public hearing and ask for a motion from the council. Madam Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to move to adopt the resolution authorizing the continued use of supplemental local law enforcement funds to provide funding for 2 full-time police officers assigned as motorcycle traffic officers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, there are multiple seconds. I think it was the Vice Mayor who I heard first. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief. And that brings us to then other business. There is no other business, technically, but we do have the appointment of mayor and vice mayor. And just to remind you of the procedure, this is an action that has 2 components, so 2 separate actions. The first is to appoint the mayor, and then the second is to appoint the vice mayor. If you wish to speak to this item, if you would turn in a speaker card, and on that speaker card indicate which you intend to address, either for the mayor's appointment or the vice mayor's appointment, and hopefully we're getting that? Okay. And the way it will work is this. We will go through our appointment process. Before we go to vote, we will then hear the public testimony. Okay. All right, I believe I have this correct. If I don't get it right when we go to the public testimony, then correct me. All right, the first item in our action is to appoint the mayor. It falls to the current mayor to begrudgingly give up this chair. At the same time, we are fortunate to be able to have a democracy in which we can take significant roles in relationship to our community. And as the mayor, I would like to enter into nomination tonight the vice mayor, Steve Rice, to become mayor for the year 2012. And do I have a second? Steve Leonardis.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardis. So it's been moved and seconded that Steve Rice be the mayor for 2012. I have one card, and I believe, yes.
May I speak to that motion?
You know, I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
You
We're going
remember-
to see if there are other members of the council who would like to speak at this time as well before we go to our public. Councilmember Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the challenges and uncertainty of the past 10 days, I think that it would not be unusual for me to have given this motion a lot of thought should it come before me. But actually, my decision on what I intended to do if the motion were made was very clear to me. Mr. Rice has been vice mayor. He should move into the position of mayor. That is the natural progression that we do in this town, and so I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Any other members of council wish to speak to this motion? Seeing none, we do have, I believe, Mr. Boyd, Tim Boyd, indicated he wants to speak at the mayor's, the vice mayor. Thank you, Mr. Boyd. All right. Well, then, is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? We do have an individual back there, the mayor of Saratoga, who has raised his hand. If you'd come down, this is Mr. Miller, and you can fill out a card subsequent to
If
this.
I could have reached one from the packed lobby, I would have turned one in already.
Okay, we have a very popular council here in this community.
I'm surprised. Nobody comes to our council meetings.
Yes.
Unless they get class credit for it, apparently. So, anyway, I just wanted to briefly say I have worked with you, Joe, for the last year as mayor of my city. We've worked a lot together, various associations that the cities represent our interests on, and you have been a marvelous mayor for the city of Los Gatos, and I want to say thank you on behalf of your sister city. Mr. Rice, I have worked closely with you also on outside agencies. And I believe you to be an exceptional council member and vice mayor for the town of Los Gatos. And we would welcome you as a sister mayor. Of course, I only have 2 weeks left, so you'll have to talk to Chuck Page. It's the way it works. We all get 1 year shots, and then they pass the gavel. Anyway, I appreciate both of you, and we greatly appreciate the town of Los Gatos and the mutual cooperation that we have had over the last year, and we look forward to many years of cooperation on joint interests to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. Appreciate
I can
that
fill one
very
in
much.
and give it to your clerk.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other public comment, I am going to call the question. The question is to select Vice Mayor Steve Rice as the mayor for the 2011-2012 mayoral year. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mayor Rice.
Well, I'd like to thank my colleagues for the honor and privilege of serving as the mayor of Los Gatos. This is something that I have thought about since I watched my grandfather, John Lincoln Sr., serve on the town council. And I'd like to start with a quick word about him. I didn't know that would do that to me. Sorry. He started his service to our town in 1941 when he was first appointed to the Planning Commission. He was elected to the town council in 1960 and served 4 consecutive years as mayor from 1962 to 1966. He retired from the town council in 1968 and went on to serve as foreman of the Santa Clara County Grand Jury. I was fortunate enough to inherit his passion for serving his community. It is especially exciting to be mayor in 2012, which will be such a significant year for our town. In the coming months, we will open our new library, a sports park designed to serve our youth. Our historic pageant grounds will be restored and opened, and we will celebrate all year long our town's 125th anniversary. Coincidentally, my grandfather presided over the town's 75th anniversary. I feel fortunate and proud, and I will work hard to serve to the best of my ability. I've always liked a quote by Ronald Reagan: "There is no limit to what we can do or where we can go if we don't mind who gets the credit." That is how I try to live my life, approach my work, and serve my community. When my grandfather passed away, the San Jose Mercury News actually did an editorial written by then publisher Joseph Ritter, praising him for his contributions to the community. In his words, for making a difference. There were big decisions made in the 1960s when he was mayor, and many of them were highly controversial. I grew up learning from my grandparents and from my parents that it is always most important to be honest and true to what you believe is right. It's harder than it looks, because if nothing else, after these 3 years on the council, I've learned that there is rarely anything that is a black and white decision. There are always lots of shades of gray to consider and evaluate. We on the council are elected to do the analysis, listen to all points of view, and to make the decisions using our best judgment. When people have a lot of different opinions, that means someone is going to be disappointed, but that comes with the job in a representative republic. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to serve as mayor. I will do my best to follow my grandfather's legacy and to make a difference in this community for today's residents and for generations to come. And now I can move to my first duty as mayor, and that is to make a nomination for vice mayor. This year is unprecedented in Los Gatos history because never before has there been such public interest in who should be nominated for vice mayor. I want to emphasize that thinking about who would be the best individual for the job was neither personal nor political. My focus has always been on the best interests of the town as a whole. The mayor and vice mayor have no more power than other council members. We each get one vote. But we do have additional leadership responsibilities in serving the community. The town is fortunate to have council members who each have different experiences, skills, and talents. In the end, my decision on who to nominate was based on what I believe is the right thing to do for the community. And for that reason, I am pleased to nominate my colleague, Barbara Spector, for vice mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard a second from Ms. McNutt. Any comments from council members? Ms. Spector.
I'm going to be supporting this motion. And I wanted to extend to those of you in the community who voiced support for me over the last 10 days. I do really appreciate that. And as the new mayor said, the vice mayor has no power, but it is an honor to represent this community as vice mayor. And that is why I thank you for the nomination.
We have cards of those that may wish to speak. First is Mr. Boyd.
I had something to say, but I don't need to now. So, Tim Boyd, town resident. First of all, it's nice to see all the former council members there. I think it's really a good indication of how special this town is. But to you, proper term, future Mayor Rice, thank you for listening. I wrote you an email. I wrote Councilmember McNutt an email last week. Thank you. If that had anything, well, along with all the other public comments that were made in the past week, I think that listening to the public, making your first decision as mayor, one that's best for the town, speaks volumes for you, and hopefully this next year will be very successful for the town, and I'm happy to hear about your grandfather's history in the town, and hopefully you'll have a long, proud history here as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Mr. Arzi.
Larry Arzi. I prepared two statements.
I had no doubt.
One just in case, but both nasty on it. You know, it's not hard to understand the concerns of the people about the selection process for vice mayor. I, for one, don't believe there is an evil trio sitting up there, but just three people of like consciences. Excuse me. What you need to do is diminish the perception of conspiracy. But that will be very hard to do. For the past year, three of you sat next to each other. You looked for cues from each other. You seemingly arrived with the same mutual prearranged decisions. You never voted against each other. So the perception of thwarting the process for the past 10 years has become genetically branded in a great many people. This group of people think you play too much politics instead of being custodians of our heritage and small town. Webster's dictionary claims, in part, that a politician is a person who schemes and uses devices to his own end. Webster's calls this a dishonest politician, as opposed to a statesman who makes unselfish interest his goal. I think I heard an allegiance to that line from Mr. Rice, and I don't believe that 3 of you are dishonest politicians, but I will say this to all 5 of you. No matter which camp you belong to, this is a turning point. Please stop playing politics and be statesmen.
Okay. Next card is from Thomas Mangano.
Well, I was hopeful, and I'm glad that I didn't have to give my other speech. Congratulations, Mayor Rice, and congratulations, Vice Mayor Spector. I wrote ex-Mayor Brzezinski a letter this morning, an email, and in preparation for tonight, I went back and looked at last year's process, and I'm glad we can talk tonight because there was no talking last year. But he said one thing, and it's also, and I brought this to his attention. I said, by working together, we can generate a Los Gatos. We can guarantee Los Gatos will continue to be the best place in the entire valley to live, work, raise a family, experience a small town. And I think that's appropriate, and I'm glad that we were able to achieve that tonight, because I gave him a challenge that unless what happened, I didn't think he would achieve that. So I thank you, Mr. Rice, for changing your mind, if in fact you ever did change your mind, but we didn't know. We can only go by editorials and paper articles. So thank you, and I want to thank all of you for your work this year. Happy holidays.
I saw one more card coming, making its way to the dais, and that would be Supervisor Mike Wasserman. Didn't you used to sit up here now one time? We're a much more fun place than wherever it is you're going now.
Mr. Mayor, congratulations. Madam Vice Mayor, congratulations. And former Mayor, congratulations. I've had the pleasure of working with Los Gatos the last year. I've had the pleasure with working and sitting up there with each and every one of you, and I thank you for your service to the town of Los Gatos. I won't get into names, but I've worked with 15 cities the last year. Los Gatos is exemplary in many, many, many ways, some of which were pointed out tonight, where you have the town manager as far as being a vice chair of the city managers, our police chief being vice chair of the Police Association for the state of California. Los Gatos is fantastic. I'm proud and pleased to live here, and I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you in the years ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, now come on. We're not supposed to do that. Any further comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Barbara Spector is elected to the Vice Mayor's position. Congratulations. Vice Mayor Spector, do you have any comments?
Well, of course.
Okay.
Now, unlike the prior 2 speakers who had 2 speeches written out given the uncertainty of the past 10 days, I had 4. The advantage to you is by preparing 4, each of them had to be necessarily short. And so what I reflected on was 2006 when I was selected vice mayor. And in looking at the website, it seemed like a simpler time. It didn't have the economic challenges we're having now. It didn't have the large developments that we're having all over town. But what you will get with me as we deal with the budget, as we deal with the land use, is basically what you've seen is what you'll get. I will consider what you say. I will consider what the Planning Commission, I know you're out there somewhere, planning commissioners say, what my fellow council people say. I will take that input and apply it to our land use ordinances and our plans, and I will make the decisions, the votes, that I consider in the best interest of this town. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be vice mayor for the next year.
Now, if the immediately past mayor and the vice mayor will join me down at the podium. Never been here before. That's kind of different. We have been fortunate for the past year to have the leadership of a seasoned, experienced, and thoughtful hand at the center chair in our council meetings. And as a small token, and I mean it's a small token because I know what it takes, if I can find it, of his leadership and service as mayor for 2010-2011, I am pleased to present Joe Przinski with this gavel. Thank you, Joe. Then we have a little something to show you as a celebration of your year. Are you ready?
complain about.
Well, that was very nice. It was a busy year. And I want to spend a little bit of time tonight reflecting on those parts that perhaps we didn't see here, and also kind of wishing you well as we go into Thanksgiving week. First of all, when I started to consider what I wanted to say, I had to focus on the significance of the year. And Pamela, who is a nurse at neonatal intensive care at Kaiser Santa Clara, as she was leaving for work this morning, she said, just one thought for your speech, keep it short. And I want to tell you that that's hard to do for me, but I will attempt. That was the voice from the dark side over there at the supervisors. I want to tell you how much I appreciate your support throughout this year. This is a wonderful community, and the mayor's job is to be able to represent this community to itself and to the broader population. And it has always been so exciting to be any place and say, I'm the mayor of Los Gatos. And you know, it is really a very powerful statement to be able to do that. It's because we have a very wonderful community. I wanted to use this Thanksgiving week to thank a number of people. First is my wife, Pam, right over there in the second row. I say this every time I'm up here doing this, and this is the third time. She is my best sounding board, my most astute critic, and my rock. And I can count on her to be as honest with me as anyone in the world, probably more so, because of the fact that she believes in what I do and she believes in our community. But I also want to use this to kind of comment on the rest of our council families. You don't know what it's like to do this business of town government unless you really are a spouse or one of the members of family of these people who sit at this dais. It is a very, very difficult job. It's a very time-consuming job, and in great measure, it's something that in no way can you determine the value, but it has ultimate value. I personally think it's the highest calling, particularly in a community like ours. And so for Mayor Steve Rice and Vice Mayor Barbara Spector, for Councilwoman Diane McNutt and Councilman Steve Leonardis, I just want to say how much I appreciate all of you and the work we've done together this year. It's been a tremendously difficult year, but a tremendously rewarding year. And I know that we will continue to be probably the best council in Santa Clara Valley. I also want to thank the manager and executive team. Manager Greg Larson and all of the administration deserve our utmost regard. This morning we have the annual tradition, the departure of the mayor. And the executive team gets together. We sit at this in this room. We have breakfast and we share stories from the year. I'm not going to repeat the stories, but I am going to say it's obvious that in our government we are more than just individuals working on a common cause. We are a family, and it came through very clearly today, as it always has, that we care deeply for each other, and that's why I think in great measure we are as good as we are. I also want to say at this point in time, the town staff is extraordinary. whether it's the police department or Parks Public Works, community development, community service, the librarians, our entire staff. There's no question that we have a dedicated group of people who want to do nothing but serve this community. And in these difficult financial times, when so many of our neighboring municipalities have difficulty providing the services or have these great internal conflicts that continue to be reported in our media, we hang together. And I think we do a really, really good job of providing you the services that you deserve. The way I kind of look at the accomplishments this year, as you noticed, we started the year in December, late December, with the ribbon cutting of the Roberts Road Bridge. Quite an accomplishment, particularly for that neighborhood out there by Vasona. And we ended it with our kickoff of the Los Gatos Creekside Sports Park, just at the end of October. In between, we built a library. And I think that's one thing that really I am so proud of, is that we did our groundbreaking in in the end of 2010. You're not distracted, are you? We did our groundbreaking at the end of 2010, and we're going to do our grand opening in February of 2012. And in between, we built the library. And if you know, coming in tonight, seeing that beautiful building and knowing that in just a few weeks, we're going to fill that with kids and teenagers and adults and seniors, and we'll all be celebrating the community that we are, that will be represented by this newest and probably the crown jewel, actually, of our Civic Center. Another issue that's been so significant to me is disaster preparedness. We said at the beginning of this term we were going to focus on it, and we indeed have. And I'm going to continue to remind you, we all must prepare. I think what we saw happen in Reno just a day or so ago reminds us again of the environment within which we live, where at any moment a disaster can occur. And I believe in just a matter of a couple hours, about 32 homes were destroyed in the Reno foothills. We live in a similar environment. And we have also the pending disaster that may be the next earthquake. With all of that, I just want to remind all of us in the community, be prepared. Be able to sustain for 72 hours. Make sure you pay attention to those pieces of information that we have let you in on, and continue to support your families, your neighbors, your schools, and your businesses, so that when something inevitably happens, we can celebrate our community together once we have gone through it and begun a recovery. As far as the community involvement, I'm just going to list a lot of things right now. It is so wonderful to work with a community that is so much involved and so willing to volunteer. And all of our commissions, many of you are in the room tonight. You serve without any compensation other than the idea that you've done a great job and that you've contributed to your town. The leadership Los Gatos class has contributed mightily to our pool of people coming into those commissions and committee roles. We have involved neighborhoods. I'm sure if you were on Johnson or over in Tate at Halloween, you know how involved our neighborhoods are. And I see it all the time throughout our town, that our neighborhoods are the backbone of our community. We have a great relationship with the business community. You see this represented on tonight's tape. And we also have a wonderful relationship with our partners. That would be the Recreation Department, our service clubs, the faith communities, the school communities, the Chamber of Commerce, Los Gatos Montesino Police Foundation, the Los Gatos Community Foundation. These individuals providing us so many things, like July 4th celebration, music in the park, jazz in the plaza, Claws for a Cause, Fiesta de Arts, and on and on. But I want to talk about one specific thing that occurred just this last weekend, and that was the Recreation Department's annual Thanksgiving luncheon for our seniors. a number of the council and myself were able to be there with our seniors for that short period of time to serve them their Thanksgiving meal and to hear and feel their appreciation for that small gesture. And I think that what we need to always remember is that we are dependent on each other. And in so many ways, that's what makes us great. So, I'm going to close now, wishing the best to Mayor Steve Rice and Vice Mayor Barbara Spector, knowing that, this is the great place that we love so much, and that we'll continue to be the great community that we are because of these people who serve in so many capacities and because of all of you who are here on behalf of the town of Los Gatos. Thank you.
One of the Joe. One of the nice traditions is that the incoming mayor gets the opportunity to choose somebody to do the ceremonial swearing in of the mayor and vice mayor. And as you saw in my remarks, my commitment and my family history and such, my grandfather passed away in 1972, so I went with the next best thing I could come up with. My mother, his daughter. So I'm going to ask my mother to come up, Claire Lincoln Rice, to swear in Vice Mayor Spector and myself.
In the positions to which you've been elected by your fellow council members, you assume added responsibility in the leadership of the town of Los Gatos. Your actions and decisions must be guided by a deep and abiding concern for the best interests of the public. To you this year comes the privilege of service to your peers and the tremendous satisfaction that is generated through the investment of your time and your talent in the lives of others. Mayor and Vice Mayor, will you please raise your right hands? Do you solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that you will serve as Mayor and Vice Mayor to the best of your ability and judgment, and that you will endeavor to promote and safeguard the best interests of the town of Los Gatos? I do hereby proclaim that Steve Rice is officially installed to the position of Mayor of Los Gatos and Barbara Spector as Vice Mayor. Congratulations.
If you know my mother, you know how hard it was. So it says give general comments. I think everything that needs to be said has been said. I'd like to thank the Chamber. They're hosting the Democracy in Action reception out in the foyer. And I'm going to remind everybody once again that we are adjourning this evening's meeting in memory of past Mayor and Council Member Steve Glickman. We are adjourned.